Hey y'all, it's Steve, Hobo with Wood, and today we're going to do a different kind of video. Today we're going to talk economics. How do you make money selling your product? And this doesn't just apply to laser goods and laser crafts and hobbies. This holds true across any business. So if you're new to this channel, hang around. This will be beneficial. Okay, guys. So I get this question a lot. So what do you sell this for? How do you mark it up? How much? Where do you get your prices from? Well, it's not rocket science. It really isn't. It's math. And math is what math is. The numbers don't lie. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. The math will dictate what you need to sell this product for if you're going to make money and if you're going to be around in 6 months to do it again. And that's what a lot of people make a mistake doing, is they undervalue themselves, they undervalue their product, they don't recognize what the market is doing or will do, and they will sell themselves too cheap and sell their product too cheaply, not make enough money, and they put themselves out of business. So, in a nutshell, how much should you mark this up? On average, at a retail price point, you want to make 40% gross profit. That's the end of the video. That's all you need to know. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have great success. Go make 40% and you're golden done. Now, for the rest of you who want to understand how you get there and how do you figure your gross profit and your real gross profit and how to make money like that, let's dive into this really deep. And I'm not going to be doing a bunch of flashy screen things. I may end up going over to the calculator because it's easier to see what I'm saying than to understand what I'm saying without the visual representation. So how much should you mark something up? Well, on average, you're looking for about a 40% gross profit across the board. Now, I say that on average because you're not going to mark up everything 40%, and you're going to mark up some things a whole lot more than 40%. So on average, you're looking for a 40% gross profit. Now, to determine your gross profit, you need to know what your cost of goods are. Or what are cost of goods? Cost of goods are anything that's going to be related to the production of a part. If you're making something, if I'm going to make this bamboo mini cutting board, what was my cost of goods in producing this when I go to take it to market? Well, there's more than just the cost of the bamboo cutting board. The bamboo cutting board, this one was $1.25 through Dollar Tree. So cost of goods is $1.25, right? Wrong. Cost of goods is made up of your material cost. In this case, the product was $1.25, but I've got to finish on this. So that's not something that you can say, hey, look, I'm charging you for this. But that's part of the product. It's part of the cost of goods. So, maybe a third of a can of lacquer. Your labor cost, not just the time on the laser itself, but the time in setting up the software, setting up the program. Your time is valuable. If you don't believe me, wait till you lay on your deathbed. Your time is valuable, and you should charge for it. Your overall shop supplies, not just your finish, but if you sand it, well, there was sandpaper involved. You want to look at your total cost of goods to determine what it costs to produce this. Your lasers, if you're doing laser engraving, as I said, this can apply to any business model. But if you're using lasers to create these types of projects, you need to be able to account for your laser time too. Lasers are consumables. Lasers, diode lasers especially, and that probably holds true for any of them, they don't last forever. There's not an infinite use or amount of time for a laser module. They're going to burn out. CO2 modules, the laser tubes and the power sources, they all have a lifespan. And the manufacturer should be able to tell you what their projected life or hours of that laser and laser modules are. So then you take that average lifespan and divide it into the cost of that product, and that should tell you about what your cost of operations is for that laser. Then you've got your maintenance of your laser, the time you spend cleaning it, maintaining it. All those things are a factor in what it actually costs you to produce this, $5 cutting board. If you're going to go to the market and you paid $1.25 for it, you're going to sell it for $5. So that sounds pretty good, right? You just made a whole bunch of money, turned the $1.25 into $5. Well, you got more than $1.25 here. And that's where people go wrong. Now, personally, me, I look at my laser time at about $20 to $25 an hour is what I charge for how long this is on the laser. It's what that time on the laser is worth to me. Now, I can be doing other things while that's going on back there. So some people say, oh, well, while that's on the laser engraving, I'm actually setting up 2 or 3 other jobs. Well, and so I'm multitasking. Well, that's great if you can multitask, because that's helping to, you're not really lowering the cost of production, but you're just getting more out of your time. Your cost is still what your cost is. So I get $20 to $25 an hour for my laser time. Then is your time on finishing. Once it comes off the laser, the cleaning, the prepping, are you going to do any finish work to it? And you're going to put a finish on it, sand it, put another coat on it, sand it. That time is also valuable. So how much time did you spend prepping it? All of those things come into play and add up to figure out your total cost of goods. Then once you've got your real cost of goods, how do you mark it up? Well, something that I've used for decades, and I have been extremely successful in running multiple different businesses. And this is something that I was taught way back in the 90s by a huge company, Mitsubishi. They actually set out and they taught me this, and Mitsubishi's been around for a while. That 40% gross profit is that target for your average. Well, if you don't know how to calculate percentages and you're not really good with math, you don't know how to take your cost, figure out what to add to it to make what the difference would be a total of 40% gross profit. Real simple. Forget all that I just said. Not all of it. Take your cost of goods, your real cost of goods, and multiply it times 1.67. Your cost of goods times 1.67. That will give you an average of a 40% gross profit. Well, that's actually 40 or just under 41% gross. And I say average because you're not going to be able to do that 100% of the time. There will be some times when you may have paid a little too much for something, or you've got more time in it than you wanted to, and when you try to do a 40% gross profit, now it's going to just be totally priced out of the market because of things that you didn't do to control your cost of goods. So to make it sellable, you'll have to settle for a little bit less. But you should take your cost of goods and multiply it times 1.67 and get to that retail figure first. Then if you want to figure a wholesale price, if you're wanting to sell it for a wholesale or less than retail because you are a little high, then you want to figure probably anywhere from, there's usually about 3 different price levels they consider wholesale. First, you got 10% off, which is not that really truly wholesale, but 15% off is a pretty good discount. 20% off of retail, 20% off of that 1.67 figure, and then 30% off. You typically don't see whenever you're going to be taking something to market, and say I've got a Weeblo that I'm selling to the a parts store down the street who's in the market of painting Weeblos and reselling them. Well, I'm selling to him wholesale because he's going to turn around and paint them and mark them up and sell them for retail. Well, typically, I'm going to get from my cost of goods to the 1.67, reduce it, and if he's buying a large quantity from me on a regular basis, I'm going to give him at least 30% off, maybe 35% off. But I'm not really going to go a whole lot less than that. Now, that's how I get to my retail pricing. But the differences are, and why I said in the beginning, your average should be 40% gross profit, is because you're not always going to mark everything up 1.67. For me, and what I've used for decades, anytime something cost me over $20, it has a markup of a multiple of 1.67. If I can manufacture something, or I have something that I'm wanting to sell and it costs me less than $20, but more than $10, then I will double my cost for a retail figure. So if something cost me $12, I'm going to sell it for 24. If it costs me 15, I'm going to sell it for 30. If it costs 10, I'm going to sell it for 20. You got it? So between 10 and 20, I double my cost. Anything under $10, it's 2.5 times. Okay? And then to figure the wholesale, it's still just 20% off or 30% off or 15% off of that double or 2.5 times the markup. So now it sounds like, well, wow, you're making tons and tons of money. No, you're not, because, and that's why you've got to do this on small ticket items, because if you're making only a 40% gross profit on a $10 piece, what was that? That's we'll go to the calculator, because I want to say initially just 1167, but come over here to the calculator, and we got $10 times 1.67. Okay, 1670. So you've now made $6.70 off something that costs $10. Versus if you sell it for 20, now you've made $10. And that $3.70, is that right? That's not a huge jump in price, but it's a big difference in your total gross profit percentage. And if you sell enough of these items and you're making an extra $3, it really, really adds up. So that's how I figure my pricing. 1.67 over $20 cost of goods, total cost of goods. Shop supplies are often overlooked, and you should not overlook your shop supplies as being cost of goods. If you go get your oil change and you look at your receipt on your ticket when you're done, they've got the price of your oil filter, and the labor, right? Well, if you look down at the very bottom, you get your sales tax and your environmental tax and disposal fees. But they also have a shop supplies, because that man that's doing your oil change is using probably half a can or a can of brake clean, cleaning up everything. If he's doing his job right, he's cleaning up everything when he's done. Shop rags galore. Well, all that stuff costs the business money, and they are in their right to charge you the shop supplies fees. Some people get bent out of shape when they see that, but it's a cost of doing business, and a business is either going to pass it on one of two ways. They build it into their price of their oil change, and you don't see it, but you're paying for it, or they sell you a market value price for their oil change, $24.95 or $39.95, and then they add the incidentals. You're going to pay for it either way. The one thing that you've got to be able to do when you go to market, go to these craft shows. If you go to a craft show and there's somebody who's selling these cutting boards that are engraved, and they're selling them for $5 a piece, and they're bamboo, but they're not finished. And you've got one that's the exact same board, but you've got a finish on it, and you're selling yours for $8 a piece. Well, your guy walks in and says, yeah, well, Chris down there, he's selling his for $5. Yes, sir. But mine have a finish on them. You don't want to knock your competitor's product. You don't want to be out. You don't want to be a negative Nancy. But you need to be able to recognize, if you're going to the shows, you want to walk around and see what everybody else is doing. You don't want to be harpy on everything, but you want to be aware of what you're competing against and be able to distinguish yours above theirs without being negative about it. Explain why yours is worth what it is by upselling yours and not crapping on theirs. Okay? So you need to know why yours is worth what it is. Upsell yours, don't knock it. And you also need to be able to compare apples to apples. And make sure you're comparing like items. You take a good quality sign like this is an engraving I'm working on, designing it, figuring it out. But that's just on cheap basswood, and you can feel the difference. It's very, very light. Doesn't hardly weigh anything. Basswood's thin, flimsy. And it's just poor quality stuff if you're going to create a really high-end product. Now, I know there are people out there who will take and put images on basswood, and you can get a really good result. That engraving back there, that's on basswood. It's on 1.5 millimeter basswood, and it looks really, really nice. But what makes that as valuable as it is not because it's on the basswood. It's because the time that it took to create it, the technique that's involved to make that happen. Not just anybody can grab a piece of basswood and produce an image like that. And then the framing and the matting and the fillet around I think it's called a fillet. But anyway, the way it's all put together, that's what makes that worth what it's worth. Not the dollar piece of basswood. So you got to be able to recognize what it is you have and why it's worth what it is. And be able to point out, without being negative, well, his is on basswood and mine's on premium Baltic birch with a finish on it. And so this is, why mine costs what it does. And you also need to be able to, in a nice way, say, okay, yeah, that's a really nice bamboo cutting board with a good finish on it. But this one is even nicer. They look very much the same as far as the engraving and all, but this is grass. This is bamboo. It's grass. It's not even wood. And this is a premium, dense olive wood. Extremely heavy, very thick. It's a 1/2 inch thick, and it's solid hardwood. It's a quality premium hardwood. So you got to be able to explain why yours is worth what it is without knocking theirs. Make sure you're comparing apples to apples, and finished versus unfinished. So now I've told you how you mark it up, how you figure your cost of goods, how to justify your cost. But now the real question is, how do you make real money? I mean real money. How do you make money selling these products? The way you make money is not by selling the product. You make money when you buy it. Okay? You make money when you buy the product. If I'm going to make these cutting boards, and you can go online and find specialty stores online that will sell you a blank olive wood cutting board, and I've seen them online for as high as $40 a piece. And that's something else that comes to mind. If you see a cutting board at Hobby Lobby that they're selling for $10 a piece, and you see another one in a specialty store that's selling for $40 a piece, well, immediately that's added and perceived value to that one that costs $40, because it's got to be a lot nicer product, a lot nicer wood, or else they wouldn't be selling it for $40, right? So you also don't, when you have a quality piece, you don't want to undervalue it. But if these are selling online blanks for as high as for $40 a piece, and you found yourself a source that you can sell them, or that you can buy them instead of for $40 a piece, you can buy them for, $25 or $30 a piece. You jump on those. Now you want to be careful. You got to be financially able to buy in bulk and buy quantities, because that's the only way you're going to get real deals, is buying something in bulk. And you have to be able to purchase those and sit on them and know that you're going to have a good return on your money. It might not happen overnight. If you're not in a situation like I am, where I'm starting to look for deals on really nice stuff that I can then turn around and offer to you on the website, hobowithwood.com, at a better price, knowing you're getting a quality product and not some cheap basswood or Chinese whitewood, whatever. Then if you're buying 40 boards, can you afford to sit on 40 boards knowing you're only going to sell 2 or 3 a month? So you got to be careful about that. Otherwise, you'll become asset rich and cash poor and have no cash flow to operate. But you make money when you buy something. So if you can buy in bulk and buy it below the average market price, how do you figure your costs then? Not your cost. Well, yeah, your cost of goods. And how do you figure your retail price? Well, if these are selling to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that wants to buy one for $40 a piece all day long on the internet, and you were able to buy them for $25 or $35 a piece, do you say, okay, well, my cost was $25 plus my labor time plus my material plus, and there's my cost of goods, and mark it up to that 1.67 to get your 40% gross profit? You just shot yourself in the foot. If everyone else on the market is paying $40 a piece for them, that's what you use to figure your cost of goods. You go with the average price that everybody's paying for to figure your cost of goods, even though you bought it way below that. That's where you make your money. That's how you make your money. You make money when you buy it, not when you sell it, if you price it right. Let's see. Because otherwise, if you get this really, really, really high-end piece of wood, but you buy it really cheap, and you base your price off of that, well, now you start selling this really high-end piece that should be bringing top dollar, and you're selling it for bargain basement pricing, then the customer is not going to see the perceived value of, oh wow, man, that thing's $60. That must be really, that's you've done yourself a disservice, and to everyone else who's trying to sell them, by undervaluing yourself and your product, and it can ruin the market, and you won't be in business and doing it for long. And if you're selling it too cheap, and if you're selling this and you're selling this olive wood board and you're selling it for $25, finished product, and they know that a blank is selling for $40, they're never going to believe you that this is what you say it is, because it can't be. You're selling it too cheap. So don't do that to yourself. Don't undervalue your product, and don't undervalue yourself. But let's jump in here and look at the calculator real quick and look at some of these figures that we're talking about. So, and I'm going to use round numbers right now because it's easier to see how it all comes to play. But say your total cost of goods is $100. Hopefully you're not laser engraving or making anything that's going to cost you $100. But if it's $100, your total cost of goods, you're going to multiply that times 1.67. There's your retail price, $167. And what I would probably do, because people's minds just work funny this way, I'd say it's $169. Because $169 versus $167 is not that big of a deal. They hear $169 or $167, their brain automatically kind of rounds up, so okay, it's $170. Well, if they're going to round it to 170 bucks, why don't I go ahead and make it 169? Because they're going to round it to 170 anyway. But don't take it to 170 because now it's no longer 160. Follow me? 169 is closer to 160 than 170 is to 160. Literally, and in the mind, they perceive it, okay, still under $170. So cost times 1.67 will give you a 40% gross profit. And how do I know that? Well, I just made $67 over the $100. So if we take your $67 and divide it by 1.67, not 1.67, clear that. You take your $67 and divide it by 160. Now, I did it again. My fingers automatically won't do it. Divide it by 167. There it is. It's 40.0119. It's 40% gross profit. So you take your amount of money that you made above your total cost, or no, take your total profit made and divide it by your selling price, and it will give you your gross profit. So if you've got something that cost you $25 and you times 1.67, it's $41.75. So $41.99. $41.99 is my retail price. So my I'm $41.99 and it cost me $25. And right now, for easy numbers in my brain, we're going to say $42 and $25. So $42 subtract $25 is $17 gross profit, or $17 profit. $17 profit. 17 divided by 42 gives you 40% gross profit. So that factor of 1.67 is going to work to create or give you a value of 40% gross profit, no matter what you use it on. That's math. That's what I'm saying. It's not rocket science. It's math. You just have to understand the crucial thing is how to get your true cost of goods in order to use that factor of 1.67 to get a real retail price. Then use your best judgment, your market, what will it stand in order to do less than that and still be profitable. You don't really want to do more than 30% off of your gross, of your 40% markup, because let's go back to the $100 cost times 1.67, 67, excuse me, $167. $67 profit gives you 40% gross profit. But if you feel like you got to offer a discount and you go, you go crazy and you give them a 35% discount, so $1.60 or 167 times 0.35 is 58.45 off. So 167 less 58.45. 167 less 58.45. $108.55. Well, your cost was $100. You gave them 35% off, and you just only made $8. Don't do that. Otherwise, stay home. You got to have gas money to get home, and this ain't going to put gas in your tank. But if it's $167, and let's see, is it? Yeah, $167 times, and you give them 15% off, or 85% of that. No, come on now. Clear. I'm not using a good calculator for me on this screen. $167, and you give them times 15% off, $25 off. So 167 less 25 bucks, 142 bucks. So at 15% off, you're still making 42 bucks. It's not where you need to be, but you see how quickly by giving, I'll give you 10% off or 15% off, you do not want to drop really below, in my opinion, more than 20% off. You start getting below 20% off and you're really starting to shoot yourself in the foot. I hope you find this valuable. Now, there are going to be dissenters who say no, this is not good. But I'm promising you, I've been in business, multiple businesses, and not because businesses have failed, but just moving in life and career changes. But no matter what I was doing, whether I was selling cars, whether I was selling parts, selling service, selling tires, or selling laser engraved products, the math works. The math works. You have to know your own value. You have to know the value of your product. You have to be able to know what the differences are between your product and theirs. Do not be a negative Nancy. Don't, oh, they got a cheap laser and they do this. Well, you know what? A cheap laser can produce the same quality of work. It's going to might take them longer, so don't be the negative guy or girl. Just say, yes, I understand that Tom, Sue, and Nancy have this for that, but let me explain to you why mine is worth what I'm selling it for. Justify your cost and not rain on their parade. Nobody wins that way. So I hope you found this informative. I hope you find some value in this. This is not a typical video that I would do, but I get this a lot. How do you sell your product? How do you figure out what to sell it for? So this is my shared life experience, and that's all I can do on any of my videos is share with you what I have been exposed to, my reality. And in my reality, this is the perfect scenario. There's going to be somebody else that has a different opinion, and that's how opinions are. Everybody's got one. So, take this for what it's worth. Hope you, like I said, found some value in it. Be sure that you're subscribed to this channel. This is not a norm. I will not be doing a lot of this. But it's just something that has just been coming up constantly over the past couple of weeks since I wanted to address it at least once. HoboWithWood.com. Jump over there. I'm going to start adding. I sell a lot of designs, but I'm trying to get worked out where I can start to offer some really good product, quality product. So it's not going to be cheap junk. But if I can find a way that I can buy bulk, and I mean big bulk, for really ultra high-end product that I can turn around and sell for $40, $50, $60 a piece, but I don't have a huge way to move those out to market, well, a big benefit that I have is my website. And if I can take and use that website to justify buying all this bulk and then turn around and offer you quality product at truly wholesale prices, then it'll help me keep my inventory revolving. So HoboWithWood.com, the products are going to start appearing there in addition to the digital files. Thank you for watching. I hope you've had a great weekend. If you're watching this, I'm producing this on Sunday. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you in the next video.